What's going on, everybody? Welcome to, I believe this is season 4, episode 25 of the Culture 360 podcast. I am one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Naheesi. If you guys were here last week, you guys know that Mo is currently on her little hiatus, so I'll be holding it down in the meantime. During this next month, we're going to have a series of special guests, special analysts, if you will, and some surprises on the way, and I'm very much looking forward to. But in the meantime, I need y'all to do me a favor. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where podcasts can be streamed, be sure to rate us a 5 stars. Be sure to be sure to share this with anybody who you know may love. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to, believe this is season 4, episode 25 of the Culture 316 podcast. I am one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Naheesi. If you guys were here last week, you guys know that Mo is currently on her little hiatus, so I'll be holding it down in the meantime. During this next month, we're going to have a series of special guests, special analysts, if you will, and some surprises on the way, and I'm very much looking forward to. But in the meantime, I need y'all to do me a favor. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where podcasts can be streamed, be sure to rate us a 5 stars. Be sure to be sure to share this with anybody who you know may love. If you're watching this on YouTube, I don't even know what just happened. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to build community with us via our Discord. It's in the link in the description, or if you're in YouTube. And y'all already know, September 30th, NXT No Mercy. And you know that we're going to be having our very, very special 316 space on our Twitter, which is at Culture 316. So be sure to join us. It's going to be a blast per usual. But we're going to get into this right away because it seems to be a lot. A lot is happening in the world of pro wrestling. We're going to start with the very, very obvious one. So WWE this past week had an all employees meeting. This meeting was reportedly about 12 to 15 minutes long. It was described as a rah-rah gathering, and the attendees and hosts included Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, and Vince McMahon. According to WrestleZone, Vince McMahon allegedly stated that WWE had become stagnant prior to the sale and that a move had to be made in order for the company to reach a quote unquote new level. All three, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, and Vince McMahon were all kind of praising each other during the meeting, and it was revealed that Ari Emanuel's daughter now works for World Wrestling Entertainment. There were some details that came about Vince McMahon's case in the LA Times, and it reads as follows: depending on the potential findings following the inquiry into Vince McMahon, McMahon could face criminal and or civil liabilities that could prevent him from serving as an officer or director of a public company. For those of you who are aware, may not be aware, the merger of WWE and UFC was announced as TKO, which I believe is under endeavor. Therefore, WWE is still a public company. Vince McMahon is a board of directors member. He's, the head of the board or the chairman of the board for TKO, which means that he is serving as an officer or director of a public company. So let's start with the first order of business, which is this 12 to 15 minute meeting in order to kind of stir up company morale, because it seems that's one of the biggest reports is that WWE company morale is at an all-time low. Now, contrary to what a lot of people are going to say, I believe that this is just a natural thing. Anytime a bunch of people get laid off from their position and or jobs, it's not going to be the most satisfying feeling around the office, right? Because the majority of people, actually all the people that were released from WWE, were people that were in the office and or personnel side, not necessarily the talent side. And so, you go to work with people on a day-to-day basis. You develop very, very good relationships with these people. You develop friendships, relationships, close bonds. And then when that person is gone, it's not the same. And I know this from experience. So, I feel like company morale may be a little bit low. And I think that it's natural at this point in time because a lot of WWE office people and staff and personnel lost friends, lost people that were considered confidants. I don't think that anything has to do with anything with the product yet, because I still feel like the product is going towards a very, very good direction under the creative helm of Triple H and on NXT via Shawn Michaels. This is a very, very interesting detail. The whole Vince McMahon stating that WWE had become stagnant prior to the sale. I don't think that this is true. Um, Obviously, we saw the multiple premium live events over the course of 2023 before the sale of WWE. Um, when it was under the creative helm of Triple H, we saw that a lot of premium live events were breaking viewership records, breaking social media engagement records, breaking streaming records via Peacock, and on in some cases breaking some attendance records, right? So in every aspect, it seemed as if WWE was was firing on all cylinders, right? If you're breaking records consistently and you're profitable consistently, then it seems, I could be wrong, it just seems like WWE could have been firing on all cylinders. But if this is not true, right? If WWE actually did not become stagnant, right? If WWE did not become stagnant, then I think that this is not about WWE's progression or regression. I think this is just Vince McMahon's desire for control. One of the things that a lot of people that are close to Vince McMahon talk about is how he has a very, very large desire to stay in shape because he wants to run the WWE for a very long time. And so I don't think that desire went away when he said that he was going to retire. I believe that desire was still very much present, and I believe that it was reflected in this move. Right, with the sale of WWE, he became the executive chairman of TKO on a board of directors where Triple H is not present. And some things really aren't about money; it's just about control. And that's not. It doesn't just apply to this. It applies to so much that's happening in the entertainment industry. We can look at the writers and the actor strike right now, and how they're kind of going against the studios, and how this is no longer about a money thing for the writers and for the actors. Rather, it is about the power. Neither side wants to give in, and especially the studios, because it's like, well, if we relinquish this, then what else are we willing to relinquish? And so I think that entities and or people in higher places, um, when it comes to things like this, it's always about power. It's always about power. And so I just find that this is a very, very interesting situation that Vince McMahon has sold off his family legacy just to retain a control of a company that seemed as if people within the company didn't want him there, whether it be the sexual assault and harassment allegations or the direction that he was going in as a creative director and as a producer. It's just overall, it's a very, very captivating thing and interesting thing. But I want to know how you guys feel about it, about this whole hands-on meeting. Vince McMahon saying that did WWE become stagnant after Vince lost control? I really, really want to know how you guys feel about this, but we're going to be moving on. So we talked about AEW last week, All Elite Wrestling last week, and how they're valued at $2 billion, but it seems like they are in line to make another big set of moves because it has been reported that All Elite Wrestling is about to expand their pay-per-view schedule to 12 shows a year, and they are moving to Max, formerly known as HBO Max, in 2024. In my opinion, this is huge. Max has already announced that they will be broadcasting some NBA games, including some of the 65 regular season games, as well as some of the in-season tournament. And it just seems like Max, Warner, HBO is stocking up on sports content, especially in light and in lieu of this writers and actors strike. So this is of no surprise to me for sure. As far as them expanding to 12 pay-per-views a year, that's a very, very interesting move. One of the things that Tony Khan had kind of talked to the press and to the public about during the inception of AEW is the fact that he wanted to stick to a 4 pay-per-view schedule. So I am very interested to know if this schedule change is something that he had wanted himself, or if it was just a matter of, powers that be wanting to do 12 shows a year. And it also has me wondering which additional shows are going to be added to the pay-per-view. This past, like tonight, we had AEW Grand Slam, which I think I'm going to talk about that at the end. We had AEW Grand Slam, and that is a pay-per-view caliber show. If you're doing a show from Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York City, this is definitely a pay-per-view worthy show. Automatically, Blood and Guts comes to mind, right? That's a signature, a staple of AEW at this point, if you will. Fighter Fest is another one. But there's so many different ways you can kind of include, especially with the TV stuff that they do a lot. They can take some of the names and apply it to some pay-per-views, and I think it'll go over fairly well. But I just feel like this is a really, really interesting thing. If AEW moves to Max, this will be a very, very, very big deal, mostly because people wouldn't have to subscribe for yet another subscription service in order to gain access to AEW television. Now, this is only if you haven't had if you don't already have a subscription to Max. But I think this is just a very, very good move where, it's easier if you're a Max subscriber to like do some type of add-on price situation than it is if you were to just like, I don't know, pay for a whole other AEW streaming service. So I feel like AEW coming to Max and then potentially just doing like a little add-on for like a 99 cents or $1 would be much better than having to pay $5 or $10 for another streaming service. So I'm very, very eager to see where they go with this. 12 pay-per-views is definitely going to be a big jump from 4. I wonder if pay is going to be affected, but we're going to be moving on. I want to know how you guys feel about AEW potentially bumping up to 12 pay-per-views a year in 2024, and then potentially moving to Max. Leave your comments below. I want to hear from you guys. So we're going to be moving on to the next subject. Because speaking of big, all right, AEW is not the only company that is rumored to be doing some big stuff. According to the West Australian, as well as BVM Sports, it seems as if WWE is only days away from announcing a stadium show in Perth, Australia. This is big. This is big. Apparently, and we're gonna do a little bit of research on the spot. This is actually coming from perthnow.com.au. You guys can look this up. So it has been revealed that I'm gonna read this verbatim. This is from an article in perthnow.com.au. So one of the world's greatest sporting spectacles is set to come to Perth in a massive coup for WA tourism. The Sunday Times exclusively revealed this weekend that the wheels were in motion between the Cook government and WWE bosses to host an extravaganza just before the AFL season kicks off in March 2024. It's expected that WWE's top talent will fly to Perth within days to announce the event alongside Premier Roger Cook. It goes on to say that the Sunday Times reported that the Perth event would likely be held before WrestleMania in Philadelphia. All right, so we have some more details, right? This Perth show that's going to be happening in Australia, it seems like it's going to be happening at Opus, I believe that's the name, Opus Stadium, If I'm not mistaken, if I am wrong, please check me. But it looks like this is going to be from Perth. This is going to be prior to WrestleMania. So it's going to be included in the WrestleMania build. And it's going to happen right before Mania. It's going to happen right before Philadelphia is going to be happening in March. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to feel about that because this seems to be a WrestleMania-esque event, right? WrestleMania adjacent event, right? And it's kind of the same concept as the Saudi shows, right? Not in the sense of like how they get the money, but in the sense of we want to create a spectacle. We want to create something that is similar to your biggest show, but instead of it being in the States, you bring it to our home country, which I understand. However, I have my concerns of building a big show right before the show of shows. You know what I mean? I feel like it could have worked after Mania. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can pull it off. However, I just think that it's going to be a little bit weird to pull that off to, you know, at some way, shape, or fashion to try to incorporate the build for the Perth Stadium show, which is obviously going to be a big deal, alongside this build for WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. So I don't know. I'm very, very conflicted and confused about it. But you know what? Maybe it's just not my business. But I want to know how you guys feel about this particular subject. How do you feel about this Perth Stadium show? How do you feel about this Perth Stadium show? Let us know in the comments below. But we are moving on. So, speaking of WWE and speaking of returns, the way that WWE is bringing back an event to Perth, Australia, it seems like a former WWE champion may be making his way back. And that former champion is the voice of the voiceless, Mr. CM Punk. He made his first public appearance since being released from AEW, and he, was doing his other job as an MMA commentator, and he joyfully said in September that he has about 2 months of free time. 2 months of free time. Now, one of the things that the internet had kind of speculated and pointed towards as soon as he was released was, is it possible for CM Punk to show up in Chicago at Survivor Series? And to be honest, the question, I guess, was going to be, is CM Punk going to make an appearance in WWE? My answer is yes. And I think that all signs are pointing towards him returning to WWE at Survivor Series. First of all, Survivor Series is going to be in Chicago. That crowd's going to be red hot. And I know for a fact that they're going to want to create a moment that's going to make a huge impact. And I feel like CM Punk is due for that in WWE. I also feel like when it comes to CM Punk, even when he had his first little suspension, he was kind of in the process of making amends. He went to Impact, he went to WWE, and the fact that all this time has gone by and he hasn't even said a word about AEW kind of just lets me know that he was ready to pack it up and get up out of there too. And that he's waiting to go back to WWE, surprisingly. So I think that CM Punk is actually en route to WWE, and that we're going to probably see him at Survivor Series. It's bold, it's brash. However, I just think that it's the move. But I want to know how you guys felt about CM Punk and his comments of 2 weeks of free time. Will CM Punk show up in WWE? Let me know. Let us know in the comments below. And today we had AEW Grand Slam. I had a chance to watch it. Great show. Obviously some hiccups. Obviously some storytelling genius callbacks, as well as just some things that were just downright disturbing. So first things first, I want to send my well wishes to Jon Moxley. He had an international championship title defense tonight against Rey Fenix, who won the belt from Jon Moxley. I do not think that was intentional, but it seemed like he got pretty messed up on the pile driver spot with Rey Fenix. Multiple sources have kind of said or insinuated that Jon Moxley had received a concussion. Those are no game. And so we want to wish Mr. Moxley a speedy recovery. We hope that he takes his time and does what he got to do to make sure that he is the best version of himself as a wrestler, but more importantly, as a person. So, but we got that. We had that Rey Fenix match with Jon Moxley. We had the Samoa Joe match with MJF. Obviously, MJF retained, but one of the things that was a standout to me was Eddie Kingston at the top of the show goes in with the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship and leaves with that title as well as the Ring of Honor World Championship by defeating Claudio Castagnoli. I think that this was perfect. It's about time for Eddie to get his due. Eddie Kingston is one of the best stories in pro wrestling. For those of you who don't know, this is a man who during the pandemic was going through a lot. He had to sell his wrestling gear in order to pay his mortgage. And now he's in AEW. He's getting all these opportunities, and it's amazing. It's just amazing to see how he's elevated. And it's amazing to see that all he had to do was be himself. And he is one of the top wrestlers in the world, arguably one of the top world champions in the world. And so I'm just very, very happy for Eddie Kingston. Obviously, Saraya retained the World Women's Championship, the AEW All Women World Women's Championship. And those were kind of like our biggest moments of the night. Rampage is coming up this week, and we're going to see what's coming up with that. But Dynamite Grand Slam, I think it was a great hit. I think it was perfect. I want to know what y'all think about this show, some of your standout moments. Comment below. Let us know how you're feeling. But I think that concludes today's show. Pretty short one, 20 minutes tops. But it's just because it's just me. But we will be back next week with more people and more topics. And it's going to be great. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I'll see you next week. Woo, 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 woo.